Revenge films.
One day, Mr. A came to visit our house. He was an old friend of my husband, and he said he's the boss of Mr. B, who lives in my hometown. Apparently, he's looking for Mr. B, who has gone missing. Since Mr. B's family and our family were close, my husband became extremely shocked and was worried. Then Mr. A said,
"Contact me as soon as possible if you find anything out."
Got it.
And so he left his contact information with us. That night, my worried husband contacted Mr. B's house and told them Mr. A came to our house. However, Mr. B's wife was surprised. Apparently, Mr. A found out about our address by visiting Mr. B's house, getting a hold of some of their mails. But our house and Mr. B's house is very far that requires a short trip by airplane. Plus, we couldn't understand why Mr. A came to our house, even though we don't know each other that well. And apparently, he came to our house right after visiting Mr. B's house. I didn't expect him to go visit you guys right after getting your address. That's what Mr. B's wife told us. Furthermore, we also found out that ever since 2 days after Mr. B went missing, Mr. A has been visiting Mr. B's house every single day and would ask to look at conversation histories on Mr. B's phone, as well as their address book containing all their acquaintances' addresses. Although Mr. B's wife gave Mr. A the address book, she didn't give the conversation history since she did not have it in hand. Mr. A's actions were very strange, and sometimes he'd even visit their house after midnight. Although thinking he found out something important, it was usually a progress report with not much success. Although she was happy that he was searching for Mr. B passionately, she felt something was wrong, and she was feeling uneasy. In addition, my husband also said,
That reminds me, when I was drinking with B, I heard him talk about Mr. A. There's no other person with the same last name. I think he's used violence on B. I thought their relationship was extremely bad.
if that was true, why would Mr. A go to such an extent and visit us who live more than 100 kilometers away? Since we're outsiders, we may not know some important details that might make it inappropriate for us to be suspicious of him. But the more I thought about it, the more suspicious we became. We gradually felt that something was definitely wrong. On another day, Mr. B's wife contacted us that Mr. A traveled to Mr. B's parents' house, which is a flying distance, and he demanded them to give him all of their acquaintances' contact information. However, Mr. B's wife had told Mr. B's parents and Mr. A and that he was a person to watch out for. Mr. B's parents did not give any information to Mr. A. In fact, Mr. B's parents also said that Mr. A's actions were strange as well. When Mr. B's mother said to Mr. A, "We asked the police to investigate the matter, so I don't want ordinary people to poke their nose in and disturb the investigation." She told this to Mr. A in a polite manner, but Mr. A, who was smiling until then, suddenly made a scary impression and was even twitching his cheeks, but he forced a smile back again and said,
Don't get me wrong, my team member is missing. It's normal for me to be worried, right?
That's what he said, but since his tone and his facial expressions wasn't matching at all, they got chills. Although not much happened after that, 1 week later, there was a change in situation. Mr. A was arrested by the police. According to the police, Mr. A has been stealing money from his company for many years. And a clear evidence was also submitted to the police showing that he had stolen more than $100,000. Among the evidence of fraud, they found a number of hidden safes and bank books with huge sums of money in them. Then we found out that Mr. B had found out Mr. A had been embezzling company money. And because of that, he was searching for Mr. B desperately. When the police investigated Mr. A's house, they found out that he was looking for things like deserted mountains on the browser, and that he also had purchasing history for weapons too. It seems like he was planning to finish off Mr. B to seal his mouth. When I first heard about Mr. A's arrest from my husband, I finally understood why I was getting uneasy at the very beginning, and I got goosebumps just thinking about this whole scary situation. Maybe Mr. B had sent some evidence of fraud to my husband, and we may have seen it without clearly knowing what it was, or we couldn't have given it to Mr. A, who was acting like a good person. And if we had given that evidence to Mr. B's wife, and Mr. A witnessed us giving it to her work, he could have killed us to seal our mouth. It means we were crossing a very dangerous bridge without ever even knowing it. Although my husband and I and Mr. B's wife all thought that Mr. A's actions were strange, we tried not to show that through our attitude. Thinking back about it, maybe this was our self-defense instinct. And when Mr. B's parents told Mr. A to not meddle with the case, they told us that Mr. A's expression changed drastically, although Mr. A decided to let them go. It could have been possible for him to have killed them, getting annoyed by them. According to the police, Mr. A thought that Mr. B sent some evidence of his fraud to his friends, through some means. So he tried to collect those evidence before anyone found out. That's why he was going around visiting our family, Mr. B's wife and Mr. B's parents' house. After all of that, we thought that Mr. B was already murdered by Mr. A, but we found out that Mr. B was alive and that he was hiding while collecting more evidence. The reason why Mr. B was hiding was because if the evidence was not enough, Mr. A would be released for lack of evidence. And if that happened, Mr. A would surely try to kill Mr. B, who reported the fraud to the police. So that's why he couldn't go back home until he was able to get sufficient evidence. And the reason why he didn't want to contact his wife was, if Mr. A somehow found out that Mr. B was contacting his wife, he didn't know what kind of inhumane actions Mr. A would take to get his wife to tell him where he was. That's why he thought it would be better if his wife thought Mr. B was already dead. Fortunately or unfortunately, Mr. B's wife thought that Mr. B was actually already dead. So when Mr. B appeared in front of her, she broke down into heavy tears.
Sorry I made you worry.
I'm so happy you came back alive. I thought you were already done for.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'll never do something so dangerous again.
You better. My husband, too.
Why didn't you ask for help? That's the bad part about you. Sorry, I made you worry too, but I couldn't let the fraud go on. Every year the company's money didn't match. I thought it was strange, but I realized that my boss seemed to be getting richer in the past few years. So I became suspicious and began to investigate the matter. I knew that your boss didn't like you, so that's why I was even more worried. Not just me, but everyone. He's a smart guy, so I thought I had to go all out if I wanted to catch him. Jeez, I know you're that type of guy, but don't make your wife cry anymore. I'm sure she was in despair every single day. Yeah.
After that, because of clear evidence, Mr. A was sentenced to prison. Mr. B was heavily thanked by the company, and since his work performance was already known to be excellent, he was promoted at once. In addition, since he was well liked by the CEO, he was told,
Did you want to shrink my lifespan?
Even the CEO was deeply worried about him. In addition, the case of Mr. A became a big news, and it was reported on many media. After that, my wife and I were invited to stay at Mr. and Mrs. B's house for a sleepover, as they said they wanted to show their appreciation for the Times case. It was surely a wonderful thing to expose injustice, but at the same time, I'm extremely glad that Mr. B didn't lose his life because of it, and that Mr. B's wife can continue to smile next to him.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.